This is The Strategist, episode 1887. My name is Zain Velji. With me, as always, he's always been here. He's been here the whole time, and we just wouldn't let him speak in certain episodes. Chris Henderson, how are you, sir?
I'm very well, Zain. How are you doing?
Good, man. Good. Listen, we've unmuted the mic. We figured out the system. Haxum has done what he's needed to make this possible, to let you speak. And we're sorry for the fact that we didn't get to capture any of your insights the last 25 episodes. Really sorry about that.
Oh yeah, sorry. It's no problem. I should have known that the light was never on.
Yeah, that's fine. It's nothing to do.
And then you never said anything. I thought I was doing a great job.
Yeah, no, you weren't.
Yeah.
Here we are. I want to talk to you about your specialty, what I consider your specialty. You could tell me otherwise, actually, as we get started here. We're doing back-to-back episodes with you tonight and with Annalise tomorrow morning to talk about, while we are a national podcast, we do have a lot of listeners in our home province of Alberta, and you are, I think, the number one get to talk about municipal politics in Edmonton. We're starting with Edmonton tonight. We'll talk to Annalise tomorrow to talk about the Calgary municipal. So I have no agenda. I'm also a Calgarian begrudgingly talking about Edmonton politics, even though some of it, like osmosis, travels down the highway, and I understand some of it. So start with me anywhere you want, and we'll go from there. And of course, we'll get to your predictions on what you think happens election night, like what the storylines have been or have not been. Has this election been as sleepy as the one that we're observing in Calgary? Has it not been sleepy in beyond the top line sort of thing? So start where you want to start, and we'll go from there. But I want to tease out for our listeners, in anticipation of what Monday night, what they might expect, what they have seen, give them some sort of talking points as cocktail chatter when they talk to their friends and family on Tuesday morning, to act like the most fucking rock stars in the municipal world in Edmonton.
So in Edmonton right now, we have we had a very sleepy race.
Okay.
Just generally, people, Edmontonians who are usually a bit late to the election. They usually sort of tune in the third or maybe last week of September. Really haven't been tuning into this election. Generally, we're expecting a pretty low turnout here, but which is a bit of a shame, because the point that we're at right now is that we are probably in the closest. Like, Edmonton doesn't have close races. I mean, they seem sort of close at points, but
and then they someone just takes over.
Yeah. So
talk to me about your race. Talk to me about Iveson, because from watching from Calgary, that's what's close. We thought it was close. Now the outcome was it, but it seemed like it was extremely close.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of observers didn't feel that one was going to be close toward the end. And it wasn't. It was I think that Don won that election in 2013 by 45 points, and he won the 2017 election by more than 60 points. And Sohi last time won by 20 points, and that was close-ish. But the only close elections we've had in the last 30 years have been in 1995, which was a real nail-biter, and 2004. Which was a slightly unexpected, one of the few unexpected results. Yeah, it was Mandel.
Mandel, right.
So Mandel in 2004, and then Bill Smith, who beat Jan Reimer by 2,000 and some votes. It was 34% to 34.08% to 34.02%. It was nothing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So we don't have maybe we have competitive races. We often do have competitive races, but we don't have nail biters. And this one is a nail biter. I've been thinking, I can't remember if somebody in the Discord wants to identify the film for me. There's this movie I remember watching when I was a kid. And in the movie, there's a horse race. And this one horse wins because it had the worst teeth, and the teeth crossed the photo finish first.
I think the movie.
The line of the front.
You may not get this if you don't listen to the podcast, Chris. The movie's Dave. Yeah. The movie's called Dave.
The movie's all. Yeah, every movie is Dave.
No,
But
we don't know. We don't say that. This one is
yeah,
Dave. This one is Dave. Yeah, yeah.
this one
The
is
others,
definitely
were
Dave.
definitely not
So,
Dave. This one is Dave.
but
But yeah,
if anybody could, but there's a similar movie that has that's a similar premise, but it might just be like a candidate here. Like I'm kind of expecting maybe a 31, 28, 27, 7, and then everybody else 7 result here potentially.
Jesus. So you also think that,
Um,
like Calgary, not to preview where my head's at in Calgary. You think this is going to be like a significantly sub 50% mandate for whoever wins?
I definitely think no
Yeah,
matter what, I
yeah.
can't see it. I think even my best projections here,
Put
a
it in the
candidate
40s.
gets in the low 40s here.
Okay.
So, but I mean, but so he got in. So he got, I think, 45 last time, which was like,
Yeah.
again, we don't, most mayors in Edmonton get, except in 2004 and 1995, most mayors get 50% plus.
So the simplest question is, to me, at least the most obvious question, and maybe not so simple to answer, is okay. Why do we have a close race this time? This is not part of your culture. This is
Yeah.
not a. Why is it close? Is it because people who weren't supposed to be good are good? Is it people who are supposed to be bad are underperform? Like give me like a sense of the
Yeah.
beats, and maybe let's start naming names in a sense, at least on the mayoral, and then we can get to, what the ballot box question is, what's
Yeah.
happening here. But why do you think it's close this time? It's interesting. It's sleepy, but it's close.
It's, it's sleepy, but it's close. And there was a lot of, through to the federal election in April, there was a lot of questions about what the field was even going to be.
Hmm.
A lot of people thought that so he would run again, and then maybe he wouldn't run again. And I mean, Tim Cartnell, who is the candidate who's been in this for the longest, announced in November.
Yeah.
So everybody knew that they were going to, whoever was going to be running was going to be running against him. But he and then so he definitively dropped out is when he ran from the Fed,
Yeah.
and that left a big hole open. And people, I think, who were previously not prepared, like I don't think Andrew Knack was planning on running for mayor until he understood that Soki was going to be out of the way.
Yeah.
I don't think Michael Walters was planning on running for mayor until he felt like he saw a pretty nice soft spot in the election that someone needed to fill. And so the field has come together really late. Even I think Reen Jaffer, who like who's not going to win.
Yeah.
I heard rumors about it for months and months and months, and then he eventually kind of showed up. Everyone's been pretty casual about when they decided to get into this race, and so you haven't had that kind of concentrated back and forth where candidates announce sort of one candidate announces in the end of May, one candidate announces at the beginning of June, and one candidate announces in the middle of June, and then they kind of go at each other for 90 days, 120 days until election day. And it's so like there's been just not much of a narrative here, and most of the news stories and this, like the biggest news story probably about any of the candidates was when Tim Cartmell missed a vote that on infill, which is an influential issue, at least on this council. So, there just hasn't been a lot to report on with this. Also, every election, our media environment becomes more fragmented. Like you might get two stories a week really in the paper of record around here about what's going on in the election, and more now, but like throughout the summer there was just no coverage of anything, so people just didn't really tune in until very late. And I think they are tuning in this week, which is I think good for some campaigns and not good for others, but it's going to be a nail biter. I think whoever wins is going to win with like a 3-point lead and less than 35% of the vote.
I want to take advantage of your campaign practitioner experience alongside the
Sure.
fact this is a very tight election. But I want to do that in a second. I want to do that near the end of this thing, where we can kind of talk about what sort of effort is needed, what the final days and the short strokes of a campaign, specifically municipal, specifically Edmonton municipal, look like. There's no one that I know that will know that better than you. But before we go there, talk to me about a few things that I've been curious about on the mayoral side, and then we'll get to council as well, as I mentioned. So he says, no, I'm out, right? He says, I'm picking up the federal seat. And while he says that, he's like, to be clear, I'm not going to run for mayor. Okay. I've got a question on the progressive side, which is there a progressive primary to replace Sohi? And of course, there's no official one. But what was your intel telling you? Was there a lot of people thinking of running, or did NAC by default fill that role? Was there enthusiasm to kind of fill that sort of progressive hole, so to speak? I want to kind of understand how NAC came about, the genesis story of NAC as like the guy to kind of represent and how were people slow or fast to embrace that? Give me that sort of broader story on the progressive side, because I'm curious. And then I've got a similar Cartmel question for you when he announced much earlier on in November.
Yeah, I think that I think Andrew Knack was ready to just move on to the next phase of whatever he was moving on to.
Mm-hmm.
I think he felt like he had a pretty good council career, and that he didn't want to. He would split a vote. There's probably not much of a point of running against sitting Mayor Amarjeet Sohi. Whether no matter how strong Amarjeet Sohi was, people will tell you that he wouldn't have won re-election. I'm not so sure about that. But
you think Sohi would have had a path, especially now seeing where we are, like 4 days away. You think Sohi would have had a path here?
I think that if you have been, I think that maybe some people have not loved Amarjeet Sohi's term as mayor.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's been a rough time for Edmonton generally. I don't think that necessarily falls on Sohi directly as mayor, but Amarjeet Sohi's magic is that he has been a very good guy to people for 30 years. And he has built up a level of political capital with a lot of very normal people that you cannot replicate in an election cycle, right? Like, he has just been a good dude to so many people for so long that he just comes with 100,000 votes in his pocket, or 50,000 votes in his pocket, or whatever it is. Like,
just by appearing on the ballot.
Yeah, people just like him, and I think there's a bit of a narrative that, like, this council or Amarjeet Sohi's not had a great term. I think that's some kind of inside baseball for people like you and I to hear about. But I think, like, if you own a landscaping company in Ellerslie, you might really like Amarjeet Sohi. You might be proud of the chance to re-elect Edmonton's, so the first time to re-elect a South Asian mayor. Like that, I think that he would have had some reasonable juice to going into this election. He might have lost, but I would never have counted him out.
And I think, and this is obviously not a perfect parallel, but Jyoti Gondek's still in the game in Calgary. And if she's probably was more down and out than Sohi as it related to South Asian incumbents, if we want to put that fine of a point on it. But straight up, right? Like, yeah. but the Jyoti Gondek literally had a fucking recall petition, and here she is flirting with first and second in the polls.
Yeah, and like I feel like sometimes the most Calgary thing to do is to just skirt go from third to first, skirting up the middle.
Yeah, I mean, that's an Menchie story. That's arguably the Branconia story. It's been the story for, in some cases, I guess it was a Mandel story in that close one in 2004, which is partially an Edmonton thing to do. Okay, so he, and before I get there, talk to me about and I'm talking about NAC, but I'm almost talking about the broader sort of progressive movement. Like, the 21 council you guys elected was seen as being more progressive. Tell me if I'm wrong. With Sohi at the helm, with councillors like Jans and others, do you feel like, when Sohi left, or when NAC was trying to, and whoever's trying to take his place, NAC or others, that there was a bit of a stain on progressivism and people were chilling to wanting to fill that hole? Or was there enthusiasm to kind of say, if I do this, I could be mayor?
Um, I think that people looked at this council as maybe just a little bit less pragmatic than a normal council. I'm not sure people have identified it as like a loony left council.
Interesting. So that's not been the label
You know,
per se.
I mean, I don't know. Like again, there's a difference between people that are sort of involved in
Yes.
the committees and groups and like clubs at the city, and then there are people like the if you want to be mayor of Edmonton, you got to get between 90,000 and 140,000 votes. Uh, that's a lot of people out on the edge of the city and people that never go downtown. And like, you got to convince a lot of very normal people that you're an electable person.
Yeah.
And I don't think that those people necessarily think in like left, right, starkly political terms. And yeah, I think they've seen maybe scratch their head at a few things this council's done, but they've also, like when they email Ashley Salvador in Ward Métis, she emails them back.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that they care about that more than whether she's sort of like an NDP coded candidate or whether she is or not.
So less of a defining issue. Okay. So take me to
less of a defining
take
issue.
me to the political genesis story of Knack in this cycle. Does he emerge as the only one, or is there others that wanted that mantle, or do you feel like there's others even on the final ballot that kind of are trying to carry that mantle a bit? And I tip at Walters to kind of get a sense of where he's standing.
I mean, I think Knack presented himself as sort of the most natural, like, choice for the kind of people that get elected mayor in Edmonton.
Yeah.
I think he's not really identifiably left. He's not really identifiably right, like on absolutely everything. He's one of these people that likes to show up and listen to as many people as he can. And but I don't think that there was but he's undoubtedly a little more progressive than, like, if I had to put him on a place on the spectrum, I'd put him in a progressive spot. But I don't think anyone was fighting him for that spot. I don't really know if anybody really wanted to be mayor. I think that I think being on city council in any major city, big, medium size or big city, is a shitty job, a really shitty job right now. And I'm not sure that a whole lot of people want to take that job. Like, virtually nobody from the private sector wanted to take that job. Yeah, and so you're left with sort of other counselors and people who used to be counselors.
Isn't that interesting though? I think that's such a unique and interesting insight that like, outside of this Omar Mohammed, who I want to talk about, who's the independent pediatric dentist who's kind of like quit his business to run for mayor. Seems like a quasi meme candidate, but like is getting low double digits in some of these polls, and is starting to, who knows where his vote crater choose or where his vote exists. There's an interesting sort of question I have for you there. But your insight regarding the class, right? So let me just walk folks through, right? You got Andrew Knack, who you've mentioned. He's the incumbent counselors since 2013. Cartmel, also an incumbent counselor. He's also representing a political party, which we'll get to in a second, from 2017. And then you said formers. That's right. Former counselor Michael Walters, former Ward 7 counselor Tony Katarina, former MP Raheem Jaffer, and then, of course, the aforementioned Omar Mohammed, the independent. That's your list, folks. Like, to your point, like, no one kind of said, it's a buttoned up business time, former chamber chair stepping up. I don't have a name in mind. I'm just kind of making that sort of general composite profile. None of those people said it's time for me to kind of do it. So I think that's a very unique insight. But I also think the other one is that no one wants to be mayor. And I feel like that's similar to what's happening in Calgary here too. Carter kind of put it in a different way. She's like, no one is running to win. And if no one is seeming like running to win, I wonder if that's why we also have a sleepy election, not just because the field was gelled late, or just because, people were deciding to see what Sohi did, or because like name recognition is so hard to get between media. All of those things are true. But my theory is also, in addition, just to get you to consider this, is that people want you to want them, in a sense, right? Like, people want you to show that you care for them. And if you have a race where a lot of people are like, running for mayor, but not like running for mayor, not like aggressively wanting to be mayor with a hopeful, propositional, exciting future message, I think the electorate kind of gets that message too, and acts accordingly. Tell me if there's holes in that theory. I acknowledge. But react to that theory for a second.
So I think maybe this election is the shape that it's in. Like I think you're onto something there, but I think the main reason that it's in the shape that it's in is because there's almost no ballot question.
Yeah, well, I want to talk about
Like
that.
there's not really a strong identifiable. Not all the candidates are like. I'm sure I'll get a bunch of text messages from the candidates' campaign managers saying like, "What the fuck are you talking
No,
about?"
it's about the
Of course, there's
province
a
or it's
ballot
about
question.
infills or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
but the it's not that there's no ballot question, but there's nothing really for us to respond to. Like there's no challenge really facing none like not existential, but there's no like unique challenge really facing us that we want to respond to. So let me take you through that just a bit.
Yeah.
2021, Amarjeet Sohi gets elected on the tail end of I think what people forget as being I think the second wave of COVID,
Mm-hmm.
which was worse than the first. Like
Mm-hmm.
people were not knocking on doors. It was, and certainly if they were knocking on doors, people weren't answering them. People were wearing masks. It was like it was a difficult time, and I think people were frightened, and I think people wanted a mayor that was going to be, it was going to be more socially conscious about what he or what they were, how they were going to run the city. And I think it was an easy way to turn to Amarjeet Sohi. I truly believe that, for all the for some of the criticism that Amarjeet Sohi got, I think he was the right mayor for this term. I think that Edmonton would be a more cynical and a
Mm.
less compassionate place if it worked for him. But he really gives a shit about everybody and like making sure that people that are kind of often ignored are included in the process or at least thought about by somebody at City Hall. I think that's what we needed in 2021. In 2023, you know, uh, it was Dawn versus Karen Leibovich, really. And when you look back on it, Karen Leibovich was a very good candidate, a very good counselor. And in 2010, if she had run for mayor, she very well may have been elected. But in 2013, Edmonton was just picking up. It's like that, like we were really kind of in a moment there. And we were becoming like that was kind of our moment that we were becoming like a big city where things were really happening. And I think people had to they looked at the electorate and they figured, well, I want the face of a new generation, so to speak, to be the mayor of this like new city that's about to have a moment. Stephen Mandel was a really interesting choice because I think it was sort of the genesis of like the sort of the larval stage of the Iveson win was, somebody that was tired of mediocrity,
Hmm.
right? Or was tired of boosterism. Somebody that was a bit real, a bit more gritty. And so that people elected Stephen Mandel. Like they had a choice between Mandel or Bill Smith, who was like, by all means, like a like pretty paddling candidate. And then Mike Nickel, who was like, the city's broken and everything sucks. Well, but Mandel said, hey man, like we can build some stuff here. Like, let's stop fucking around and let's build some stuff. And so people elected Steve Mandel. He was a very successful mayor. He brought Edmonton to a point where they were having a moment. Then they decided, great, we have a moment. Let's hire Don Iveson to be mayor. And then when they got to a point where we were in some like compassionate trouble, they hired Amarjeet Sohi. And there's just nothing like that in this election,
Do you,
right? Like people
yeah.
are upset about things, but there's not a challenge to respond to here.
Do you feel like there was meat on the table, or was there or meat on the bone, I guess, or like was there a chance for someone to engineer that question in this election around?
Oh
And,
yeah.
and my
Oh
question
yeah.
is like those questions can be engineered, of course, like ballot box questions, but also give me a sense of like where Edmonton's headspace is at. Like, what do we need to know about Edmonton, like political culture? I appreciate the lesson around the lack of close races, but one aspect of Calgary political culture that I know is that we often elect mayors to respond to what's happening at the provincial level. More liberal, a little bit more pragmatic, a little bit more of a surprise, at least when you know Calgary, the cliche that, oh, this person could be mayor. We've had that so many times in a row that like Nenshi was an extension of that. He wasn't the definition of it, right? So what do I need to know about
No.
the Edmonton political culture here? Like, do you guys vote on big things? Can you vote on, like, can you have? Was there ever a chance that this was going to be an infill election? Like, I know some people trying to engineer it as such, but was it ever a chance that was going to be it? Like, give me a sense of what I need to know there.
Well, I think if you ask certain people, again, like that kind of like people like me, what the election is about, or people that own a business downtown, that like a lot of them will say this was an infill election. And that is a very, like I said it, I called it an influential topic earlier because it's an influential topic,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not necessarily an important one. Like 200,000 people have arrived in the city in the last 4 years, and most of them don't live in a neighborhood that's having infill problems.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just like it's really important to a series of neighborhoods. It's like the number one issue in a bunch of neighborhoods, and it's a bunch of neighborhoods where a lot of people with microphones and influence live, and that's great. Like that's fine. It's not an issue there, but it's just I don't think really a really significant citywide issue any more than like 15-minute cities are.
Mm.
So, but the political culture here, I think, is I would say, when we don't necessarily hire or sorry we don't elect mayors to fight the province.
Mm.
We want to see that you've got skills to do that, but I would say that Edmontonians tend to vote for the and I'm not, I think Don might kill me for saying this, but mildly ambitious candidates.
Mildly ambitious.
Right? Mildly ambitious
mildly
candidates.
sticks out.
Yeah, like they want you to have some ambition, but they don't want you we don't respond well to crazy promises. We don't respond well to I can fix everything. I think what they respond well to is what Mac is actually saying in this election in his final stretch, which is that Edmonton is a great city.
Yeah.
And it can be better. We can make it better. Whereas I think Cartmel and I think maybe increasingly Walters certainly Cartmel is saying the city's broken and I can fix it.
Yes.
And I don't think people respond well to that. I think Michael Walters' message is a little bit more nuanced than that. I think he's saying there are some persistent issues here, and I've got a proven track record of addressing those issues. And if I'm given an opportunity to be mayor, I can do even better. And then I think Raheem Jaffer's campaign is like Edmonton sucks, and let's go back, like this back to basics message.
Right.
And then people keep saying like nobody wants to go back to basics. No one, like you say back to basics, what you're basically saying is less services, less municipal responsibility, and like maybe you'll get lower taxes in return, but probably not. Like no, everybody knows that that's not a real thing. Also, this is a very fiscally liberal town. Even like people are, taxes have always been the biggest issue for like 30 elections in a row.
Yeah.
You ask everybody, it's taxes are too high, taxes are too high, taxes are too high. If you're a candidate, all you really need to say is, I'm going to treat your tax money better. I'm going to find ways to, get more out of the taxes that you pay. And maybe I'll try and lower them a little bit, but like I don't think anybody really buys that. And no one's put forward a plan that can say that this is something that they absolutely could do.
So it's not a housing election. It's not like Edmonton's next rung on the big boy, big city ladder election, right? What do we want to be? It's not an existential, we've got two paths that have been carved out for us sort of thing, which kind of brings me to Cartmel. So this is the former councillor, 2017. He's running as head of a party. Was he always part of this party? Did he start and come out in this election? I mean, of course he wasn't previously, but did he lead this party? Did he soft shoe into this party? And then give me a sense of how Edmontonians are receiving the one guy, if I'm not mistaken, who's part of a party and every other candidate I've listed as an independent. Is this independent party thing a factor? And give me the Cartmel story here in broadest sense. I know I've asked you like 6 questions here, but lay it on me on the Cartmel side.
I wouldn't say that the parties are taking off like wildfire.
Hmm. Are you
I
being
certainly
diplomatic,
don't.
or do you actually mean
I,
like parties are liability? Like, I think it's important to like get a sense of it from your
I
perspective.
I think it sort of remains to be seen whether
Hmm.
they're a liability, but I don't think they're I don't think they're helping.
Hmm.
I think that generally the parties were put together as a fundraising apparatus and a data collection apparatus,
Yes.
and I'm not sure that that's worked all that well. I don't see a ton in the way of signals. I mean, maybe Monday night I might be completely wrong. I have no insight into the dashboards of any of these campaigns,
Yeah.
so but it doesn't really feel like I'm not seeing I'm not seeing any reason to believe that like the Better Edmonton Party is like really taking the city by storm and really resonating with people. In some ways, it looks like it's doing well. In some ways, they look like they're absolutely fighting for their life. And I think with Carmel, I mean, he's been at this for a year. He will spend more money than any candidate in this city's history on a
Hmm.
mayoral campaign.
Really?
And actually, on any campaign, a municipal campaign in the city's
You
history.
think it hits like
Like,
7 digits? Like, is that what you're?
oh yeah, it's definitely going to go past 7 digits.
Wow.
Like, and I don't think anybody's ever even hit 900K. But he was at 845 at the end of July, so he must be in
Yeah,
like
you'd anticipate at least
with a
another 150 would be added to even the October month, let alone.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I mean you can like however, and it's probably even more than that after
Yeah.
you like depending on how you want to treat the party money, but because the party money puts him on a lot of on a lot of large signs on a lot of candidates large signs, but I mean if I want to be like totally frank about this, the Carmel campaign at more than $1 million has to win. If the Carmel campaign doesn't with more than, and it's not just that like
You just to be clear, when you say it has to win, you're like, if it doesn't win, like it's a big deal that it doesn't win. Like, it's a historic level deal that it doesn't win. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that what you're trying to say?
I mean it no, I mean it's the biggest it'll be I think the most embarrassing election defeat of all time in Edmonton.
In Edmonton?
I mean yeah, I mean don't when in 2013
But no,
Iverson
but
beat
to be clear,
Leibovich.
not
Yeah,
because Cartmel was a sure thing though, right? It's not like Cartmel was like up in the polls by 30 points and like someone caught him and beat him by 2 on election night. Just to be clear for everyone listening and you and
yeah,
I as well, it's not because of that narrative, right? Like, we think of
no,
embarrassing election losses on the, oh my God, like Polyev is a good example. How did you fuck this up, buddy? Like, this was going to be yours. Like, we were giving it to you. You'd all but, were the prime minister of this country. It's not on those terms. I just want to be clear. It's just you're saying it because of how big, robust the spend was, and how much of a flame out
yeah.
it could ultimately end up being.
Well, it just
Yeah.
like so in 2013, Iverson beat Leibovich 3 votes to 1,
Yep.
and he, I mean, I ran the Iverson campaign, so we were outspent. I believe the Leibovich campaign spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $880,000,
Yep.
and Iverson raised $618,000. So like, there's a delta there, but not a massive one, right?
Yeah.
After $500,000 or after $300,000, it's like kind of a wash. Nobody else has even close to the kind of like money that like Ender Knack doesn't have maybe has $250,000,
Yeah.
and he I think is probably if I had to bet money, um, I would bet that he's going to win on Monday.
Okay. Yeah. I was
Uh,
gonna get so
so yeah,
interesting. So
the like
you
and if he
he might do
does,
it in less than
he's
three
going
hundred or
to
$400,000 ultimately.
yeah, yeah. That is very like that's a very real possibility. He's having a very good end of his campaign is like really hitting his stride, and I think I think the way the other candidates are acting. I mean, Tim Cartmel put out an ad or put out a social media post yesterday saying, "Hey, like every vote for anybody but me is a vote for Andrew Mack,"
Hmm.
which like. Uh, that's that's not the kind of ad that you run in the last week, going into a sure thing victory. No, that might just be the campaign, the Cartmel campaign being cautious.
Yeah, sure.
But like
that's not an end game message, is what you're trying to say, right? Like that's not an effective.
I don't think that's an end game message. I think that that's not a good closing message. I think NAC's closing messages are, you could, whatever you feel about their the policy proposals in them, or the platform around them, they are confident, and they're running. They might be just be running a campaign that they, without thinking about anybody else, and just we run whatever campaign we run, and then we win or lose. But I think the Cartmel campaign and the Better Edmonton campaign have spent a ton of money at this point, and I don't think they've ever been more. They've led a couple of polls, but they've never led a couple of polls over 20.
So
they should be, like, they really should have walked away with this, and they didn't.
So you've got an election which was sleepy but tight, that's starting to show some space, that's starting to show some distance between NAC, at least in one Janet Brown poll that I believe you're alluding to, which was a 15-20 point lead somewhere in that neighborhood for NAC. But would you be surprised if Cartmel wins on Monday?
I wouldn't be surprised if he won. I mean, he's taken up 2/3 of all the ad space in this entire election. So I said a little bit earlier, like, if one candidate has $400,000 and the other one has $700,000, it's like, that hundreds of thousands of dollars is a lot of money, and you can make a real campaign out of that, and you can reach a lot of people. And if you spend that $400,000 properly, and the other people don't spend their money very well, then you might get a good result on election night. But that might not be true at like 1.1 million. And I mean, I think Cartmel's probably spent in the last month alone, probably in the neighborhood of $20,000 to $30,000 on meta ads.
Right.
And that's just one ad platform.
Yeah.
Interesting. Not as much as Omar or Dr. Omar Mohammed.
Yeah, I want to talk about that guy in a sec.
Yeah, but I think the NAC campaign was slow to start, and I think they kind of took stock of what they had, which was, I think, a good social media presence for a candidate, a guy who's been responding to people diligently and door knocking for 12 years, and a bunch of volunteers that wanted to do some door knocking. And then I think he has leveraged that as he got a little bit of money and scaled that to turn into a bit of a machine. Whereas I think quite frankly, a campaign with as much cash as the Cartmel campaign has had to pretty much buy everything that it's done.
The signs, the services, the everything. It's become yeah.
I mean, they went into 2025 with $450,000. And when you have money, you solve problems with money. When you don't have money, you solve problems with what you got. With
sweat equity, ingenuity,
and down the stretch,
higher levels of engagement. Right.
Exactly. And when you get money behind a system that was built with sweat equity, that's easier to leverage into like a full scale system than when you've got to pay cash for everything.
Does anyone else factor in this election? Jaffer, Walters, or does anyone play spoiler in your mind? Like if it's close, do any one of these other folks, if they're not going to outright win, do you feel like they have a chance collectively or individually to play spoiler for one of these candidates in a sense? So what's your read there? Both in terms of can anyone else win? And if not, what is the role these other candidates are bound to play on election night, at least how you read it?
So I think Walters has run a fairly compelling campaign. He's certainly run a campaign on his strengths and on his issues, which is a great place for a camp. He's running on what he's passionate about. I just didn't have enough. I think he just came in a little too late for that kind of campaign to pick up pace. I didn't think so at the time, and then I think I've been kind of turned out that was the case, that he just wasn't just didn't have enough friend weight
Mm-hmm.
to make to make a dent. I think he splits his voters split. I would be hesitant to say who I think he who
Helps.
he would take away from. Yeah,
Yeah.
who he helps. He might take from Mac,
But he's not
and
going to win.
um, you know, I said earlier I thought it was going to be like 20 or 31, 28, 27.
Yeah. Like that close at the
You
top.
know, yeah, that close at the top. So like, I don't think it's totally out of the realm of possibility, but I think just based on the way that I think I'm seeing things move, I don't think that it is. I don't think that he can make it. I think one of the interesting things about what's going on um, uh, is that Dr. Omar Mohammed might be a good representation of the fuck you vote.
So this
I
guy,
think
let me
if
just add a
people,
bit of context. I'm going to
yeah,
give you my explanation of
yeah,
this guy. So
yeah,
middle-aged pediatric dentist, like shoulder length hair, right? Like auctioneer. He's got a personality. I think charisma might be a bit too far to kind of classify it, although charisma is in the eye of the beholder. So I'll let others think about that. And his strategy seems to be very much he's got a compelling life story, like growing up in like, very trying circumstances, being a successful pediatric dentist, like, and then saying I'm devoting my time and energy to become mayor. And he's got something. Like he's got
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like and he's
yeah,
doing
yeah.
Zoran style social media videos. They're not as slick. They're not as compelling. They're not as like, universally endearing as that campaign's materials. And how it could be. I think that's a very different candidate. And this is a very different episode for you and I to talk about Zoran. But he's trying to take on that social media sort of punch through. And I'll give him credit. He's punched through. Like, why do I know this guy's name? I should not know this guy's name.
So I'll give him credit for a couple of things. One, he's got a good message.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's good message. He's got a easily recognizable message, and that message is, fuck these guys.
Yeah.
They got us into this mess. Give somebody else a try.
All these formers,
And
all the former
yeah,
counts,
all
former and
these
current,
formers,
right?
like,
Formers and currents,
yeah,
get rid of these, right? And it's easy when
you don't
everyone
need
else is wears one of those two titles.
yeah, exactly. And he's like, look, I'm a total outsider here, and who can articulate some like good municipal ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a shot. And he's gotten smarter over the course of the election, right? He started out with this like completely cringe rap video that
I think I missed that. Yeah,
it was not good.
Time to shine, Edmonton, let's shine together. Let's all shine bright in all kinds of weather. Time to shine, Edmonton, let's shine together. Let's all shine bright in all kinds of weather, yo.
But then he's moved to these like videos that, like I think are a little stronger for his particular personality. So, and I think if you are really like, if you got to vote, this is the other thing is like the vote, like we're looking at a low voter turnout here. So I think all this like talk about undecideds, like, well, which way are the undecideds going to swing? The undecideds are going to swing to Netflix, and they're going to spend like they're not going to go right. They're not going to vote. I think a lot of people made up their mind and they voted in advanced voting, I guess this time.
Even
but
though
I don't
turnout
think
was
we're going
down
to have
significantly there, right?
I think turnout was apparently up in absolute terms for advanced voting.
Okay, I'm sorry
here,
thanks for the correction. Yeah,
but every year, every election, more people vote
right
in advance in Edmonton.
But when we look at the mayoral, like I do want to highlight a thing you said earlier. Like this could be 90 to 140, like 140,000 votes at the top end, and I think it's going to be significantly less than that. That potentially decides who becomes mayor here. Like that's a lot, but also that's not a lot. You know what I mean?
Maybe 80.
Maybe 80. Like 80 could be the floor here. 80,000 people is often like a riding. You know what I mean? Like from a federal, like it's like it's and not the voters and not how many people show up, but it's the size of a riding. Like so, you can have deep dominance with a particular type of group or a former councillor. Like there's all these interesting dynamics in a first past the post election that I think municipal plays out because of that low voter turnout and frankly that relatively low number to needed to become mayor. So you're not okay. You're not putting any of these other folks in the winners category. So help me let me go through this little exercise with you then. Okay. If Cartmel wins on election night, why?
If Cartmel wins on election night, it's because he had the most money.
You think money? You
And
think
he
you
was-
think it, and it's you think it's a testament to like a 3-to-1 or
I
a
think-
4-to-1 spend?
Yeah, 4-5-1 spend where you're just name recognition the shit out of the place. I mean, Tim Cartmel is a very nice guy, and he's been, I think, a pretty good counselor. But like, quite frankly, I think he's kind of run against his record in some instances, and I think that he's made some fairly significant mistakes, and he is. I think his just positioning isn't that great, and I think that more or less bears out in where we're sitting right now. Like, we should not be talking about, is it going to be Knack or is it going to be Cartmel or could it maybe be Walters? We should be saying Tim Cartmel was out first, had an unfathomable amount of money, and convinced everybody to vote for him pretty early with how he has all the money. How could he lose is what I would, on election night, I'm going to say.
You're already
he had
writing
all
that
the
story
money,
in your
how
mind
could he lose?
and in other places.
Yeah, well, but I'm going to say he had all the money. How could he lose? It's just a matter of what intonation I use. It's either he had all the money, how could he lose? Or it's he had all the money, how could he lose? Right? Like, so, he's either, so yeah, that's, I think, why. I mean, I don't think his message is broadly different from Knack or
Isn't that fascinating?
Walters.
They're not.
Yeah,
you think they're playing in the same? If they're in the same pool, they're versions of different people, like, for sure. But it's not like you don't think Knack is playing in a deeply progressive pool here.
No, I don't think so.
So then my question to you on the other end is, if Knack wins, why?
I think if Knack wins, it is, I think,
Which, by the way, you think is the likely scenario, to be clear, just to make sure everyone's following.
I think today I would pick Knack, just, and this is like 100%. Like,
yeah,
earlier I said, like, you don't know how, like, normal people think. Well, like, talking about a constituency of one who's run a mayor, like a citywide campaign. And I just, like, I feel like first of all, I would not want to be on the bad end of a Janet Brown poll. I'll say that. And we're not certainly one where he was 20 points ahead of the next person. Now that's a snapshot in time, and that might have evaporated immediately after that. But I think his campaign has gotten stronger, and I think his support's gotten stronger since then.
Well,
do you
think it's an issue? Do you think it's like the teacher strike, or like, is there anything that's aided it in your mind?
I think one thing about Andrew Knack is that Andrew Knack he is a very genuine, authentic person. He presents himself as himself. And I think he's one of those people that you can disagree with and still vote for. I think he understands that, and I think he understands how that comes off. I think that's something that Edmontonians really like. If I had to provide any, like, armchair hindsight is 2020 criticism to Canley Rivici, it would be that I think she tried to change a little bit too much to fit some expectations that maybe were, like, didn't help her out. Whereas, like, I felt like Don kind of presented himself as, like, I'm this is the guy that I've always been. I think Andrew just gotta, I think if he wins because he is more compelling to more people more often. And particularly in an election season that's this sleepy, where maybe you don't like the party system with Cartmel, or maybe you think Cartmel's tied to politics that you don't necessarily like. Whereas Andrew seems like a slightly safer bet. And like I said, Edmontonians like sort of mildly ambitious candidates, like that want to do want to do good things and represent their city well, but don't, like aren't coming in with like a giant gondola project or we're gonna triple the LRT in 2 years or anything like that. Like they don't like the. I think Edmontonians, are generally pretty even keeled when they go to vote for mayor. They also have like the opportunity to do that because they can, it's a two ballot system, right? You vote for, the number of in 2017 there were a huge percentage of the ballots were Don Iveson for mayor and Mike Nichols for councillor. Because you could be like, well, I like the hopey changey guy, but I also want someone that's going to be like hold them accountable at council. So there's a dynamic there that you can that you can play with NAC. And if you think that you can vote for NAC and somebody that you think will rein them in a bit.
So okay, this is helpful. I've got 3 more quick tranches for you. Number one, back in 2017 when I was running the Nenshi campaign, you paid me a visit in the campaign office and we were chatting for a while, and my eye was focused obviously on the mayoral and that race, which opened up at the end but was a squeaker. In fact, we were down in some public polls for a while. And then I paid attention on election night, be like, oh yeah, what the fuck happened to council? I should take a look. Like, people fucking hated council, and then she was wearing a lot of that. Like, oh my God, I bet all the people I know on council and every single one of the incumbents, Chris, got reelected.
Yeah.
Every single one that ran again, I should say.
Yeah.
Edmonton's got a bit of this council. We always have that a bit, but it would varying degrees. I don't want to spend time on individual folks because I think the mayorals was interesting to me. But give me a flavor. What do you think happens to council? How your read is in the sense how Edmontonians vote for these things? Do you feel like there's going to be big change on council? Do you feel like incumbents are going to be unseated? Is this that election? What would dictate that in your mind? Just give me a sense on council right now.
Aside from the 5 seats that are definitely going to change,
Which because there's no incumbent.
There's no incumbent.
Got it.
I think it's 5. I think that generally, again, we hear all this stuff about how this is like such a loony left council, but I know that they're all very conscientious about serving their constituents. And not all of those constituents are going to vote for them on a second time, obviously, but I think most of them are going to. I think that people generally really appreciate like sort of a customer service approach from the council, and I don't think they get too worked up in particularly in Edmonton. I don't think you get too worked up in the politics. Like people.
That's interesting.
But I think there's certainly a constituency of people who like identify a progressive councillor and identify a conservative councillor, and they gravitate towards them. But those are like political animals, and they're like very normal people in the middle that, asked if there could, why the speed limit wasn't 30 and they're in front of or near their school, and got a response back.
Right.
And that's sort of what they want out of their city councillor. So I think that, I wouldn't be surprised if every single incumbent came back. I wouldn't be surprised if 5 to 7, 5 came back, and maybe like a couple got picked off. But I would be very surprised if only 1 came back, like 1 or 2. Like I would be. Every election is a throw the buns out election until people go to vote.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people work really hard, and they I think they represent their constituents fairly well. I might be in the minority there, but I see them do their work, and there's a very good reason why, I think only 7 people since 2004 have lost an incumbent race in Edmonton. It's customer service politics, and these councils are generally really good at the customer service end of it.
Love that insight. Let's end here. You know what this final weekend looks like. We sit here recording on Thursday evening. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. It's on Monday. Knowing what this final weekend involves, can you give me some advice for both of the 2 leading mayoral campaigns? And let's start with Cartmel. what advice would you give to them and their team right now? Dispense it, whether it's on the over the air advice, on the ground advice, organizational advice, money advice. It might just be advice that says it's all over. You can't change the destiny. It's all, the cake is already baked. Good luck. I'm giving you just examples of things to consider. I'm not trying to shoehorn you, but it's the slate is clean and it is yours. What advice would you give the Better Edmonton Tim Cartmel team over the course of the next 3 to 4 days?
I think I would actually give the same advice to both candidates or both campaigns, and that is just don't do anything fucking silly. Don't make massive changes. Like if just run the strategy that you've been running this far. Don't try and pick up that don't try and do anything that you think is going to pick up that extra percent. I don't think it'll work.
Either getting a loan to get another $500,000 of ads over the final weekend or shit. I'm making shit up. Or a Hail Mary of some kind. Right.
Yeah. Like don't try and reveal that I don't know, like a photo or something that, people are going to think that you release on Friday night and on Saturday, everybody
absorbs
reports that it's AI. And then, there's no Hail Mary that's going to work here. You are either on the trajectory to win right now or you're not. And so I wouldn't be trying to change tack at all right now. I would be running flat out with the strategy that got me where because if you're in the Cartmel campaign right now, you think you're going to win on Monday. You have to think that way.
Right? Yeah.
You have to think that way. And I think there's reason for them. That's not a fantasy. That there's a reason there's a very compelling reason why they could win on Monday. If you're the NAC campaign, I would, you gotta be thinking the last 3 weeks of this campaign has been fucking great. Right when people are paying attention, I would bet that the NAC campaign feels like they're getting momentum a little more every day, and they're headed toward, something. They're headed toward victory, maybe a slight one, but they are headed toward victory on election day. I would just keep going and say, same thing with the Cartmel campaign. I would not do anything that, I think Edmontonians, are a perceptive bunch. I think they'll see a gimmick. I think they'll spot a gimmick if you put one in front of them. So I would just head down, contact your voters, just get out there and
work
until you're blue in the face.
I love it. We're going to leave it there, Chris. And we now know so much more about Edmonton, and people can pretend like they knew all of this all along on Monday night when they're watching the election results come in. By the way, you guys in Calgary, we don't get the council results until much later because of all the shit. Is it different for you guys? I should know this, but I'm asking. Do you know if it's different?
We have bullshit now.
Okay.
We used to get, so basically you used to go to you used to go to vote.
Yeah.
And then you would say, do I want a public trustee ballot or do I want a Catholic trustee ballot? And then you fill in the Scantron sheet and then you feed it into the machine yourself.
Yeah. And
then that's it. And we get the results right away. It's really anticlimactic if you're a campaign manager, because you get a call from elections, or at least I did. I got a call from Elections Edmonton saying, here's where we're at with the results. And I was like, okay, fuck, we won this thing. I'm not going to tell anybody for 15 minutes because people are enjoying the tension. But now that now that the provincial government has mandated that all the ballots have to be hand counted, I don't know if we're going to see the results until late, particularly if it's a close election. We might not get them until the next day. That's going to be a fucking mess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm really not looking forward to that. Edmonton elections, like the municipal division, Edmonton elections has always done an extraordinary job organizing the election and having just no drama whatsoever. I'm worried that we'll have a little bit of that this time. And I think Edmontonians I think it's going to be weird for them to not have results on election night. I think they are used to seeing that, but Aside, also the cost of it is phenomenally high.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
I think we might be in the same boat there. We'll leave it there. That's a wrap on episode 1887 of The Strategist. My name is Zain Velji. With me always, Chris Henderson. We might unmute his mic every now and then, and we'll see you next time.